Exposed. 7 sinister urban legends revealed as haunted truths that terrify the cursed. In the quiet enclave of Willow Creek, darkness lurked beneath the meticulously manicured lawns and pristine white picket fences. Whispers echoed through the streets at night. Tales of the cursed watcher, a ghastly figure that haunted homes harboring secrets too vile to remain hidden. But most dismissed it as urban folklore, an exaggeration woven into suburban lore. Until now, Sarah, a tired single mother, struggled to find peace amidst her night shifts at the diner and the challenges posed by her rebellious 16-year-old son, Jake. Each time she pulled into their driveway, the neighborhood seemed to sigh back at her, its tranquil hum a facade. The creaks of their old house matched the rhythm of her heart, a reminder of the secrets lurking in every shadow. "Mom, you need to see this," Jake shouted one evening, rushing into the kitchen like a hurricane midst a brewing storm. His eyes sparkled with a mix of dread and exhilaration. He dropped a stack of papers onto the table, his investigations into their neighbors, revealing lives wrapped in deception. Miss Callahan isn't who she pretends to be. And what about Mr. Reed? I heard things that send chills down your spine. Sarah's skepticism flared, a protective shield against his boundless energy. Jake, those are just rumors. You're spiraling into paranoia. But there was something in his voice, a deep-seated urgency that froze her blood. Shadows danced across the walls, and as their anxieties unfurled, the silence grew heavy, like an unseen weight pressing down on her. The days that followed spiraled into an oppressive fog, her friendly neighbors now nondescript sentinels concealing hidden truths. Smiles felt too wide, eyes too shifty. Something was terribly wrong. Jake began to see things she couldn't see. "Mom, I saw them gather last night at the Reeds. What is going on?" Panic laced his voice, but Sarah waved him off. The world of suburban bliss was just that, the monster of ordinary life that fed off fears and secrets. Then came the night Jake didn't return. A hollow panic clawed at Sarah's chest as she dialed the police, her hands trembling. He'll be home any minute, she reassured herself, even though her heart raced. Suddenly, the once comforting sounds of their neighborhood turned sinister. The rustle of leaves felt like a whispering warning. The wind howled as if bringing a message from the grave. "Mom," a voice echoed in the darkness. Was it Jake, or was it something worse? She rushed to the door, throwing it open, but the twilight had swallowed him whole. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Days turned into nightmares, with unsettling sounds echoing through their home like echoes from a bygone era steeped in dread. She clutched an old photograph of them, smiles bright in fading light. As reality crumbled, she faced the possibility that the cursed watcher wasn't just folklore. It was their neighbor, their teacher, her so-called friends, perhaps even someone she called family. Sarah plunged into the search for Jake, heart racing against the unknown. The clock was ticking, and she could feel the shadows closing in. Everything felt like a trap, but she was done being a pawn in their game. It was time to uncover the truth lurking in the heart of Willow Creek. And just as she began to piece together the horrifying puzzle, an anonymous message flashed on her screen. "You shouldn't have looked. Now it's coming for you, too." Her breath caught in her throat, and she realized the real monster was not in the dark, but among them, hidden, waiting. What had she unleashed? Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she stared at the cruel message illuminating her phone screen. It felt like the weight of the entire neighborhood pressed in on her, shadows creeping from every corner of the room. The walls seemed to whisper, conspirators in a terrifying plot, and she couldn't help but think that each crack was a face watching her. She tossed the phone away, but it wasn't enough to erase the foreboding chill that enveloped her. Panic clawed through her veins, tightening its grip. She could not sit idle while Jake's fate hung in the balance. Gathering her strength, she stepped out into the night, the air thick with unease. The first house she approached was Miss Callahan's. The lights were dim inside, flickering like ghosts dancing behind the curtains. Sarah hesitated, remembering Jake's words about the woman. Not who she pretends to be. It felt like a riddle with sharp edges, hiding secrets she wasn't prepared to confront. She knocked, each rap echoing ominously in the stillness. No answer. Miss Callahan. She tried, her voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. Silence responded. A cold sweat trickled down her spine. A flash of movement caught her eye from the corner of her vision. Something darted behind a tree. She spun around, her breath hitching. Was it Jake? Jake! She yelled, desperation clawing her throat. There was no response. The darkness swallowed her call. Gritting her teeth, she turned back toward the house. The door creaked open unexpectedly, revealing a shadowy figure. Have you come to ask about the secrets? Miss Callahan's voice was low, smooth like oil, but with an undercurrent that dripped with menace. Sarah stumbled over her words. I'm looking for Jake. I think he may be in trouble. The trouble is always here, hiding behind the curtains of this place, just like the truth. The woman stepped closer, her face half hidden beneath the shadow of the doorway. But some truths are better left buried. A chill cut through Sarah as she realized that the woman seemed to know more than she let on. I don't care about the truth. I want my son. Sarah's voice wavered but grew stronger, fueled by a fierce determination. Ms. Callahan's lips curled into a knowing smile. You cannot save him if you don't understand what you are dealing with. The Watcher sees all, and it is already watching you. The air crackled with tension, and for a brief moment, reality flickered like the dying light in Miss Callahan's home. Odd noises came from the depths of the shadows, chirps, clicks, unnatural sounds that twisted the hair on the back of Sarah's neck. Leave while you can, Sarah. The viewer is hungry. Before Sarah could respond, the woman abruptly retreated, slamming the door shut, leaving her in darkness. Breathless, Sarah stumbled back, the weight of despair crashing down on her. How much did the neighbors know? Was there any hope of getting Jake back? Panic twisted in her stomach as she began to realize the danger lurking behind each seemingly innocent smile. The hollow laughter of the night air whispered through the trees as she raced through the streets. Each house stood like a silent sentinel, watching, waiting. She could feel eyes harboring secrets in the darkness. Was she in over her head? The line between reality and nightmare was beginning to blur. She turned the corner toward the Reed's house. A shadow flitted by a person or something else entirely. Panic rose in her chest. She pressed on, but a soft rustle in the bushes made her freeze. Just ahead, a figure emerged, the silhouette eerily familiar. Jake? She called, heart pounding, uncertainty flooding her. In the dimness, it stepped forward, but what she saw froze her blood. A visage not quite her son, with eyes too wide and a smile stretched unnaturally across its face. Mom, help me! Before she could react, the figure lunged, and the ground seemed to vanish beneath her. What had she stepped into, a suburb or a snare? The darkness was hungry. Would it consume her too? As she battled the shadows threatening to claim her, a chilling whisper filled the air. The Watcher is here, and it's your turn now. The world became a blur of darkness and frantic movement as Sarah tumbled backward, the ground giving way beneath her. She gasped, instinctively reaching for something, anything, to grab onto. Her mind screamed for clarity, for a way out of the void that threatened to swallow her whole. But instead of impact, she found herself atop damp grass, breathless and disoriented. The air was thick, suffocating, almost alive. She pushed herself up, eyes wide in panic, desperately scanning her surroundings for that familiar face. But the shadows hung heavy, dripping with malevolent intent. Jake? She called again, her voice quavering. The silence that enveloped her was oppressive, punctuated only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Then, she felt a presence, like a finger tracing along her spine, making the hair on her neck stand upright. It was watching, waiting. A soft giggle skittered across the air, its sound sickly sweet and laced with cruelty. Mom, help me. The voice echoed, but it twisted, mixed with a sinister undertone that sent icy fingers gripping her heart. It was Jake's voice, but wrong. It struck like a bell tolling in the distance, announcing dread. Jake! She yelled, now driven by panic. She scrambled to her feet, turning every which way, the oppressive, all-consuming darkness clawing harder at her sanity. Images flashed through her mind. Timmy from next door, how he never came out to play anymore. The couple across the street, who always seemed too chipper, too perfect. Their smiles hiding secrets behind curtains drawn tight. There was something about this seemingly idyllic neighborhood beneath its veneer, something that twisted a blade in her gut, grasping at hope. She remembered the old legends, the tales whispered around bonfires, the myths stitched into the fabric of night. A watcher, they said, a creature lurking beneath the surface of every suburban facade, feeding off despair. "Jake!" she shouted again, voice echoing against the eerily still houses. But what if it wasn't he, her son, calling? What if it was something much darker? A flash of movement drew her gaze back to the bushes. It was there, that silhouette again, lanky and unnatural. Almost human, but twisted. It slowly stepped forward, the grin spreading wider, unfurling under the faint light of the street lamp, revealing sharp teeth that gleamed like polished daggers. "Jake!" Sarah cried, stepping forward, her knees trembling. "It's hungry. Now it's time for you to join." The figure's voice was mocking, a twisted mimicry. Her chest tightened, each breath feeling like a betrayal. Something shifted in the shadows behind it. A line of figures materialized, each one bearing that same hideous grin, stepping forward in unison. A family, a neighborhood turned into a brood of monsters stealing their loved ones. "No!" Sarah screamed, terror electrifying through her veins. "You're not him." In desperation, she turned and ran, her feet pounding against the pavement. The laughter chased her, a cacophony of echoes threading together, haunting her very being. The landscape blurred as she sprinted toward the center of the neighborhood, where the streetlight shone bright against the despairing gloom. But as she reached the crossroads, her heart sank. The light flickered ominously, casting monstrous shadows that stretched and twisted, warping the familiar into the bizarre. "Sarah, come back home." The voices sang, almost in harmony now, harmonizing with the rustle of night. Her head spun. Which way was home? The laughter warped into something sinister, swirling around her like a relentless cyclone. Then, ahead, a door creaked open slowly, a light beckoning from the porch of the one house that felt somehow untouched by the nightmare, untouched by the secrets. Could it really be safe, or was it just another trap? Every instinct screamed for her to turn and run, but her hope flickered like that dying light. What secrets lay behind it? The truth, the watcher, or perhaps even Jake? With her heart pounding, she took a breath and stepped forward into the unknown, the door, looming larger as if daring her to enter. What awaited her on the other side? The door creaked wider, a slow, deliberate movement, as though the house itself was exhaling, inviting her into its maw. The light spilled out in warm, welcoming waves, but Sarah felt its warmth turn to ice against her skin. Every fiber of her being screamed to retreat, but the whispers of despair hung heavy in the air, drawing her closer. "Jake!" she called one last time, her voice barely a whisper now, swallowed by the oppressive tension. The shadows danced around her, eager to snuff out her remaining hope. With shaking hands, she stepped inside. The scent of musty wood mixed with something far sweeter, syrupy, like old candy. It felt wrong. It felt like something that belonged in a horror movie, not her home. But she had to know. Maybe, just maybe, this would lead her back to her son. The interior was dim, lit by flickering candles that were strangely unaffected by the draft in the room. Photos lined the walls, capturing supposed moments of joy, smiling families, gleeful children, all with the same sinister grin plastered on their faces. They watched her as if they were alive, eyes sparkling with malevolent delight. Footsteps echoed behind her, and she turned sharply. The door slammed shut, plunging the room into a chilling silence. Heart racing, she moved deeper into the house, her breath quickening with each creak of the floorboards beneath her. That a sound pulled her attention, the faintest sob. It resonated from behind a door at the end of a narrow corridor. The words came unbidden to her lips. "Jake?" The sob intensified, a heart-wrenching sound flooded with desperation. She rushed toward the door, her fear morphing into fierce determination. She reached for the handle, turning it with a trembling wrist. The door swung open to reveal a darkened room, every surface covered in thick dust, webbed corners echoing neglect. In the center stood an old-fashioned crib, curtains drawn tight. She took another step inside, and with a sudden burst of courage, yanked them aside. Nothing. The crib lay empty, but the air felt charged. There was something in the silence, something lurking just out of reach, holding its breath, waiting for her to let down her guard. Jake? The name escaped her like a prayer, but it felt hollow. A laugh, light yet filled with malice, broke the silence. "He is not here, Sarah?" The voice was smooth, dripping with condescension. It could only belong to one of them. The shadows coalesced on the edge of her vision, growing in number, fusing together to form a figure with that terrifying grin. "Oh, but I have something for you," it said, extending a hand where a small, crumpled piece of paper lay cradled in its palm. "Let him go? Where is he?" Panic rose like bile in her throat, but morbid curiosity compelled her forward. The figure's hand flicked open, revealing a child's crayon rendering of what appeared to be her home. But looming over it was a dark silhouette, its taloned fingers reaching into the open windows. "This is your home now. You've always belonged to us," it crooned. Sarah's skin prickled with dread as realization dawned on her. This was no ordinary figure. Before she could react, the shadows lunged forward, enveloping her in a crushing embrace, drowning her cries. "You will see Jake soon, Sarah. Join us." Suddenly, the world spun, the walls closing in. She felt darkness wrap around her, sending sharp, frigid tendrils through her veins, pulling her deeper into its grasp. Just before the darkness swallowed her whole, a rush of clarity burst through. "No!" she screamed, her voice breaking through the veil. The light from the candles flickered, illuminating something in the corner, a glimpse of movement. The shadows tightened. A child's face appeared through the fog, wide and terrified, an echo of her own son. "Mom, you have to find me." And then it was gone, leaving only darkness behind. What had she unleashed by stepping through that door? With her heart pounding in terror, Sarah braced for the crushing darkness to finally take her. But somewhere amid the terror, the light of hope flickered once more. Would she uncover the truth before it was too late, or was she destined to join the ranks of the watched? The darkness wrapped around Sarah like a heavy fog, thick and suffocating. She gasped for air, her mind spinning as she fought to keep her grip on reality. Where was Jake? Where had she gone wrong? Panic twisted in her gut, a living entity clawing to be released. Her heart thudded against her ribcage, echoing in the silence. Just beyond her reach, shadows flickered like flame, pulsing with an eerie life of their own. They whispered, sweetly, maliciously, their voices a haunting lullaby. "Join us," they called, each note laced with a thread of darkness. "No," she cried, clenching her fists. A flash of determination surged through her. She wouldn't surrender. Not yet. Straining against the pressure, she forced her legs to move, to seek the flickering light in the distance, a promise of hope in this abyss. The walls pulsed, vying for her attention, taunting her with snapshots of a life she once knew. Each photo, each faded memory, breathed despair. They were a part of this place, just like her. She stumbled forward, the shadows whispering secrets that pricked at her sanity. "Mom," came that familiar voice, lilting through the darkness, teasing and weaving just out of reach. "Find me, Jake?" Her voice cracked, desperation clawing its way back. "Where are you?" In response, laughter erupted around her, a cacophony of joy and malice. "He is not lost. He is found," said the voice that had haunted her before, cold and indifferent. "And soon, you will join him. Forever." Then, as if the very essence of despair had congealed, the shadows recoiled. A sudden shift in the air made Sarah's skin prickle. She seized the moment and rushed toward the light that flickered ahead, racing against the shadows that now stirred with menace as she neared it. She saw a door, a sturdy wooden barrier marked with intricate carvings, an unsettling pattern that felt familiar. Her fingers trembling, she pushed against it. The door creaked open, revealing a room pulsing with an unsettling glow. Inside, the atmosphere shifted, electric and heavy with anticipation. Old dolls cluttered the shelves, their eyes glassy and lifeless, yet they watched her, every move observed, dissected. She swallowed hard. The walls were painted a dull, battered white, save for a series of abstract shapes that danced across them, resembling dark figures grasping at what lay before them. It had been a child's room once, she realized, a somber realization that tightened the breath in her throat. But where were the toys? The innocence? Nothing remained but that deep sense of being observed. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a small chest tucked against the wall, the wood weathered and cracked. She felt an irresistible pull towards it. Heart thumping, she approached, her fingertips brushing against its cool surface. What could be inside? Was it a clue? Did it hold a piece of Jake? With shaking hands, she opened the chest. Inside, she found old, folded papers and a collection of tiny trinkets, bits of string, rusted keys, and an object that sent a chill through her. A small, perfectly crafted doll resembling Jake, its eyes glassy and lifelike, gazing up at her with forlorn longing. "Mom, you have to find me," echoed once more. She spun around, scanning the room wildly. The shadows thickened, melding into one ominous swirl that crawled closer. They seemed to pulse, beckoning her an aggressive invitation. Something shifted behind her, too fast for her to track. "Wait," she screamed, but only silence answered. A heavy pressure bore down on her chest. She clutched the doll tightly, the warmth of its wooden body a false comfort against the icy dread creeping into her bones. Had she come to rescue her son, or to relinquish her soul to this wretched place? Every instinct told her to run. But when she dared to look back at the door, it was gone, replaced by a solid wall of darkness, impenetrable and thick. There was no way out. "Mom," the voice whispered again, softer now, laced with despair. And suddenly, the room around her erupted into a chaotic swirl, shadows intertwining, laughter morphing into screams. The space warped and twisted, sucking her downwards. Just before she lost herself in the chaos, a haunting revelation gripped her. The doll was more than a reminder. It was a link. It had been made by something, or someone, connected to Jake. Tear this place apart, find him. A voice screamed inside her mind. But who was she fighting? For Jake? Or for her own sanity? The world faded, pulling her under, and in that moment, she vowed she would fight, even if it meant facing the horrors that lived here. Before she was fully consumed, one last spark of light flickered. Something cold brushed against her hand, not the doll, but something else, slipping away just beyond the edge of perception. What had she unleashed when she stepped inside? Would she be able to find her son, or would she too become another shadow, lost in the darkness of despair? The chaotic swirl of shadows ripped Sarah from her thoughts, dissolving her last shred of certainty. The room twisted, distorting the familiar into the grotesque. The walls wobbled like a funhouse mirror, and for a moment, she thought she might hurl. "Mom!" That heart-wrenching cry echoed, snapping her focus back just in time. She clutched the doll, its gaze as piercing as real Jake's, pulling her deeper into the abyss. This place, whatever it was, thrived on her fear. She could feel it, like a predator drawing closer, savoring her despair. "Keep moving," she told herself, taking a hesitant step forward. The shadows around her slithered, elongating and parting as if they had their own will. She felt their cold breath on her skin, like icy fingers that sought to draw her into their depths. With each breath, her heart raced faster, the rhythm blending with the whispers that surrounded her. "Join us. Stay with us." Laughter danced through the air, an overwhelming cacophony that made her feel small, insignificant, frantic. She slammed the doll against her chest, a desperate talisman against the dark. "Jake!" she shouted, the word tearing from her throat like a plea. "I'm coming. Just hold on." Suddenly, the whispers rose and fell, forming a chorus that morphed into a chilling melody. The shadows paused, and there it was again, a flicker of light deeper in the room. She squinted, her vision straining to catch the glint of hope amongst the despair. With sheer determination, Sarah lunged toward the brightness. The air thickened with despair, but she pressed on, forcing her legs to carry her forward against the grain of darkness. Yet as she neared the source, her foot caught on something. She stumbled and fell, sprawling across the cold, gritty floor. The impact jarred her senses. When she looked up, her heart sank. A mirror loomed before her, warped and covered in dust. The reflection showed her face, but Jake was not beside her. Instead, behind her, stood a shape, a slumped figure cloaked in shadows. "Mom," it echoed softly, sorrowful yet haunting. Panic surged as the figure stepped closer, emerging from the shadows like a specter. In that moment, her breath hitched. It was a little boy. Not Jake, but someone else. His features were twisted and hollow, eyes sunken, mouth curling in a silent scream. "Go away," she managed to yell, backing against the mirror, the cool glass biting into her skin. "You're not my son." The boy took another step, and the room quaked. The walls vibrated, resonating with his plight, sending a tremor deep into her bones. "Help me," he rasped, a sound like autumn leaves scraping across concrete, hollow and chilling that a flicker of recognition ignited in Sarah's mind. Who was he? Why did he look so familiar? The overwhelming despair almost suffocated her again, twisting her stomach in knots. Memories flooded her, bits of a forgotten childhood merging with a painful present. "No, no, no," she shouted, blocking it all out, panic pushing her to stand. She didn't have time for this. Was this kid another twisted victim of this place? Or a truth she had buried deep? The wall behind her vibrated with each thud of her heartbeat. Thoughts spiraled. Could there be other lives trapped here, like Jake? With a surge of adrenaline, she turned, scanning the room desperately for an exit. But the darkness around her deepened and festered, closing in like a hungry beast. She clutched the doll tighter, its wood warm against her trembling hands. If it had a connection, it had to be worth something. "Listen," she yelled, addressing both the pleading boy and the shadows that dominated the room. "I'm getting Jake back. I'll take him home." A rumble of laughter rolled around her, brimming with malice. "Home. There is no escape," it crooned, as the figure of the boy grew translucent, merging with the shadows around it. An icy wind blasted past her, folding the shadows into a solid mass. The whispers exploded again, a rush of chaos that drowned her pleas, and in that maelstrom of darkness, a gnawing fear began to bloom, a fear that she was running out of time. That as the void closed in, she took a sharp breath, determination crystallizing. She needed to understand this place, break whatever curse tied these souls to the dark. With a surge of courage, Sarah ripped her gaze from the fading boy, pushed through the chaos, and yelled, "I will find him." But as the shadows crashed down around her, she heard a chilling reply, slithering into her mind like smoke. "If you find him, you might wish you hadn't." Something in her blood turned cold as she realized the truth. Perhaps she wasn't just searching for Jake. Something darker awaited. What had she truly awakened by entering this nightmare? Would she be brave enough to face it? Or would she too become another lost soul in the darkness? The darkness closed in, swirling tighter, a fabric of ink threatening to enfold her completely. But a spark of resolve blazed within Sarah. She took a step back, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The laughter echoed around her, a chorus of voices blending seamlessly into the shadows. Suddenly, she felt warmth, the soft touch of sunlight breaking through the oppressive gloom. It wasn't much, but it illuminated her path just enough. She squinted, heart racing, forcing herself to push toward the light, propelled by the hope that maybe, just maybe, this was her way out. The freezing shadows writhed, trying to snatch her back, but each stride brought that light closer. She was almost there when the ground beneath her shook violently, and the mirror behind her cracked, splintering into sharp shards that reflected not just her form, but a dozen twisted versions of her face, each one screaming in terror. "Jake!" she shouted again, the name laced with desperation. "I'm coming." But the shadows murmured back, a sinister whisper wrapping around her mind. "You think you can save him? You don't even know what he has become." The ground quaked with that ominous laughter, and Sarah stumbled. The slumped figure of the boy came rushing back, tugging at her sleeve, his hollow eyes pleading. "You have to help us. You can't let him stay." Who do I need to save?" Sarah felt her heart racing, the shadow pressing against her, cold and clammy, invading her thoughts. Every child trapped. His eyes darted nervously to the shadows swirling behind him. "But if you enter the light, it will be the last thing you ever do." Frozen, Sarah was caught in a pulse of conflict. Should she trust him? How could she walk into the light when the only source of salvation was also a warning of death? "No, I'm not leaving without Jake," she screamed, denying the mounting dread clawing at her throat. "I want to abandon him." Yet as the light flickered precariously, wild shadows surged forward, merging with the boy until he was nothing, just another echo lost in the darkness. The walls moaned, writhing like living skin. In that instant of loss, a weight settled on her shoulders, guilt lacing her resolve. The walls of despair pressed down as they whispered her fears, threatening to shatter her conviction. Run, they said. The only way to survive is to abandon hope. But before they could swallow her whole, she pushed through the assault. Each step was torture. Every inch felt like wading through thick sludge, and still, she moved forward. She remembered Jake's laughter, the way his eyes sparkled with life. That memory lit the fire inside her. With fierce determination, she snared the doll from her grasp and raised it high as if it were a shield. You don't own me. She pointed it towards the source of the light, urging it to stay bright. The shadows recoiled momentarily, like a retreating tide. Sarah seized the moment. I'm coming for you, Jake, she declared, barreling toward the flickering glow. But as she lunged, everything changed in an instant. The light dimmed and the laughter crescendoed, turning into agony. As a piercing scream cut through the air, a scream that sounded hauntingly like Jake's. Time stood still. Sarah's heart sank to her stomach, her breath hitched. No. The shadows intertwined, engulfing her, and a surge of darkness rushed forward. She stumbled but held her ground, forcing herself to face the horrors that lingered in the depths of despair. She had to push through the shadows. She had to find Jake. But as the whispers rose to a deafening roar, another voice crept into her thoughts, heavy with regret. What if he has changed? What if you can't help him? Sarah steeled herself. I will save him, or die trying. Optimism ignited her resolve, but in the abyss, the darkness was relentless. Yet as she advanced, she heard something shift behind her, a rustle in the shadows, a ripple of movement. A bleak realization dawned. It wasn't just a fight for Jake. She had awakened something much darker, a force thriving on her desperation. Foolish child, it hissed, the voice slithering through the air like a snake hunting its prey. You have no idea what you're about to unleash. Whatever it was loomed in the darkness, waiting for the precise moment to strike. Was she truly prepared for what waited just beyond the shadows? Would the price of saving her son pull her deeper into the darkness? The shadows shifted restlessly, twisting closer, hungry for Sarah's doubt. She rallied her courage, pushing against the whispers that wrapped around her. I will save him. The phrase rolled like a mantra, steadying her racing pulse. The chilling voice from the dark slithered around her again, thick with malice. You think love can pierce this veil? Do you even know where your precious boy is? Each word dripped with contempt, chilling her to the bone. She clenched her jaw, urging her feet forward. The light flickered like a dying ember, yet it danced with promise. With every step, shards of panic stabbed into her, asking if Jake really was lost. The thought felt like a scar, raw and pulsing. Then she noticed something, a shimmer on the ground. As she leaned closer, her heart thudded against her ribs. The boy's doll, the one she had raised against the darkness, lay beneath a thin layer of dust. Cold sweat trickled down her spine as she picked it up, feeling its familiar weight. The doll's glass eyes reflected a light that felt both familiar and frightening. What if you find him? Echoed the voice. What if you don't like what you see? She shook her head violently, pushing away the doubts. It doesn't matter, she shouted into the dark, her voice trembling but resolute. He is my son. Silence swallowed her words before the laughter ignited again, cruel and mocking. It surrounded her, wrapping tight, squeezing the breath from her lungs. She could feel the air thicken, turning to lead, dragging her deeper into despair. Time to choose, Sarah, the voice taunted. Turn back, or lose yourself. In that moment, another sound broke through. A weak cry, small and feeble, cutting through the tempest of warnings. It was unmistakably Jake's voice. Help me. It wove through the chaos, pulling at her heart. Jake. Her voice rang out. Where are you? The laughter faded, leaving only the echoing call. Down here the call was weak, like a candle flickering in a storm. The sound drew her like a moth to a flame, a siren song of hope igniting the darkness that threatened to consume her. Trusting her instincts, she lunged forward. Each step dragged her deeper into the abyss, where the very air shimmered with what felt like despair and fear. The shadows elongated, clawing at her as she moved toward the ghostly glimmer where Jake's voice came from. I'm coming, she whispered, pushing through the heavy gloom. But then, a jolt of pain shot through her body. A shadow, long and serpentine, snaked around her ankle, immobilizing her. No, she screamed, thrashing against the grip of darkness, but it was like wading through molasses. The shadows tightened their hold, and the whispers returned, more maddening than before. Why won't you listen? You're chasing after a ghost. He is not the same. She gritted her teeth, desperation fueling her strength. Let him go? He is my son. The shadow tightened, a cruel reminder of how close despair loomed. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a figure dancing just outside the reach of light. Panic surged anew, blurring her vision. Jake, she called, her heart racing, each beat echoing like a war drum. Sarah. His voice was weaker now, a faint ember against the dark. Help me, please. Her heart shattered at the plea. At that moment of raw, unfiltered terror, another voice rasped in her mind. What if he pulls you into the void with him? The universe shifted in that haunting instant. She couldn't fathom what lay beyond the shadows, but she couldn't abandon him. With every ounce of resolve, Sarah tore herself from the shadow's grip, launching towards the faint glimmer. But as she did, a long, serrated claw emerged from the darkness, blocking her path. Its eyes glowed a sinister red, watching, waiting. Foolish mother. You're too late. Terror smothered her, constricting tightly around her throat. What had she awakened? What lay ahead for Jake and herself in this nightmare? The shadows whispered promises of despair and regret, but she knew she couldn't turn back. Not now. The darkness roared, and Sarah braced for impact, ready to face whatever horrid truth awaited them both. But just then, something shifted in the dark, and a piercing scream echoed behind her, one that chilled her blood to ice. Was it Jake? What had she unleashed in her desperate quest to save him? The scream sliced through the heaviness of the shadows, freezing Sarah in place. She could feel the weight of the night press down on her, overwhelming her senses. Panic ripped through her, primal and visceral. Was that Jake's voice? The uncertainty made her stomach twist. Jake? She whispered, but her voice trembled, swallowed by the enveloping dark. The claw still loomed in front of her, pulsating with menace, and she had no other choice but to confront it. Too late. It hissed, its breath rancid and full of decay. You're here to witness his end. No. She shot back, every fiber of her being pushing against the impending dread. I will find him. With a surge of defiance, she raised the doll, feeling its rough fabric between her fingertips. She took a breath, grounding herself. The shadows sang with mockery, but she pictured Jake's face, his innocent smile. That image amplified her courage tenfold. If responding to her resolve. The claw retracted, leaving a thin trail of dark mist twinkling in the air. She saw an opening, a dim light flickered far beyond the monstrous barrier. Without hesitating, she surged forward, heart racing, driven by raw instinct. The moment she passed where the claw had been, darkness erupted around her like a storm. Vicious whispers clawed at her mind, twisting her thoughts. He has gone. You can't bring back the dead. Each word landed like ice in her veins. She stumbled briefly, brain fighting against the intrusions clawing for dominion. But then, somewhere deep in the cacophony, Jake's voice broke free, cutting through the despair like sunlight through a storm cloud. Help me, Sarah? I'm here. She darted toward the sound, overwhelmed by urgency. The shadows tried to lure her back, wrapping tendrils around her ankles, trying to pull her down into their echoing chasm. She fought against them, dragging her feet forward, but the voices were growing louder, more insistent. Who do you think you're saving? The voice taunted again. Your son is lost, a shadow himself now. Do you even know what you're stepping into? No, Sarah cried, but doubt was seeping in like a poison. Could he really be changed? Just as she reached what she thought was the source of Jake's voice, the light flickered violently, revealing a shadowy outline that was unmistakably her son. He was there, but twisted, contorted in ways that felt wrong. His eyes, usually a vivid blue, were now draped in dark veils, pain etched into his small features. Mom, he groaned, reaching out with trembling hands. Her heart shattered. Oh, Jake, I'm here. But as she stepped closer, the figure shifted, becoming less recognizable. It was as if something was clawing its way out from within him, a darker presence. Mom, help me, he repeated, voice quivering, but now something layered beneath it made it sound warped, a sinister echo. The shadows shrieked their warnings in a violent crescendo. Foolish to think you can save him. He belongs to us now. No, she whimpered, fear chaining her feet. The air thickened like a blanket wrapping around her, muffling her thoughts. Somewhere within her, a flicker of hope ignited anew. Jake, she shouted, fight it. Remember the doll. Remember us. His form faltered, eyes staring into hers, the light of recognition burning through the dark. But just as his grip on the reality she knew seemed to be slipping, a deep, resonant laughter erupted from the shadows, drowning out everything else. It was triumphant and bone-chilling. You think you're strong enough for the truth? And then the shadows coiled tighter around both of them. In that moment of intersection, she never felt more lost. The realization crashed over her like a wave. If she wanted to save him, she might have to risk her own soul. Could she do it? What price was she willing to pay? As the shadows lunged, she felt the pull of the void, waiting to claim them both. The choice lay before her. But could she dare step into the unknown? What if it was a sacrifice too steep to bear? The question loomed with dread: could love truly conquer all, or would it lead her deeper into darkness? The shadows clawed at Sarah, whispering secrets of despair and pain, each seeping tendril a reminder of what she stood to lose. Her heart raced as she faced the twisted figure of Jake. He was there, yet not quite there. Mom, help me. His voice was a thread pulling her closer, yet every instinct screamed that something sinister lurked beneath. Jake, she shouted, desperation and love spilling from her chest. Fight it. Remember who you are. The air crackled with tension, shadows swirling restlessly, eager to smother her hope. Sarah could see the struggle behind Jake's eyes, the flicker of recognition fighting against the darkness, like a light wavering against a storm. The laughter of the dark grew louder, mocking her determination, echoing against the walls of the suffocating void. You can't save him, foolish mother. They jeered, voices layering over one another. He's ours. No, she cried, stepping forward into the perilous unknown, the doll still clutched protectively in her grasp. I will not lose him. Not now. Not ever. Tendrils of darkness lashed out, attempting to snare her once again, but she pressed through, channeling her love and fear into raw energy. She got closer, close enough to see the pain in Jake's face melting into something quieter and darker. You have to remember, babe. Remember us. Remember the laughter, the fun times. Think of the summer nights, Mom. I can't. Don't let the shadows take you. You are strong. We are strong. Jake's form flickered, a war waging inside him. His familiar spark dimmed, but didn't he extinguish? The essence of who he was shimmered beneath the dark facade, and Sarah summoned the memories, her voice building in strength, fighting back against the creeping dread. Remember when we built the treehouse? When we made mores in the backyard? For a fractured moment, she saw clarity in Jake's eyes, saw the boy she loved shine through the shadow. Mom, help him. The malevolent laughter drowned him out, monstrous and terrifying, ripping through the air as dark shapes flared around them. With fierce resolve, she raised the doll high, letting its warmth intermingle with the chaos, shouting, You can't have him. You will not take him from me. The shadows recoiled, and the atmosphere shifted. Her sheer will ignited a pulse of light that spoke of love and connection, radiating through the darkness, breaking the grip that tethered Jake to the void. But it was only a momentary respite. The shadows twisted into a conflagration, howling like a hurricane, and Sarah's heart sank. Jake's twisted figure convulsed. Dark energy surged around him, grabbing at everything that made him whole as he whispered, Mom, stay with me, stay. I'll always be with you. She screamed, tears filling her eyes. We'll fight this together. With a surge of strength she didn't know she had, she lunged toward Jake, linking her hands with his. They felt the shadows melt beneath their combined warmth, dissolving the bitter grasp of despair. The darkness imploded around them, howling in anger as light split through, revealing fresh air, the sweet scent of home. Let go of him. It was a fierce roar, resonating with every ounce of a mother's love, cracking through the realm of horror and despair. The shadows screamed in retaliation, thrashing against the walls of their world, but her resolve radiated like thunder, echoing back to her, wrapping her in a cocoon of hope. The darkness began to fracture, and Sarah felt weightlessness, the swirling shadows cleaving apart as she and Jake were swallowed by radiant light. With a sudden jolt, she found herself standing in their backyard, where the moonlight spilled across the waiting grass. She was gasping, heart racing, but Jake was there, alive and trembling in her arms, a living reminder of everything she fought to save. "Mom, it's okay, sweetheart." She held him tightly, their embrace igniting a warmth that chased away the lingering chill of the night. "I've got you." They felt the shadows dissolve behind them, their hold finally breaking as they retreated into the dark corners of Willow Creek. Shadows, once more confined to whispers in the night. Sunlight broke the horizon, illuminating the outdoor world, ensuring that the darkness wouldn't return so easily. They were as they should be, whole, unbroken. "Where have you been?" Jake murmured, pulling back to meet her gaze. "I was here, fighting for you," she said, brushing away tears, release flooding through her. "And I will always be here." With hands clasped tightly, Sarah knew the evil that lurked in the corners of their suburban life had been challenged. They had faced the darkness together, and though Willow Creek may never be the same, they would reclaim their home one heartbeat at a time. As the sun rose, a new day promised light and the redemption they both deserved. If you followed this intense journey with Sarah and Jake, make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await you. Smash that like button now. Your support fuels this channel and keeps us moving forward. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and feelings about this unforgettable conclusion. And remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word. Let us keep unearthing the truth together.